here, and I haven't seen you in a while. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Everybody. I think a lot of people.
All of you like are getting to know each other. That's awesome. So announcements. The biggest announcement that I want to say is that, and this is not, we have a press release scheduled for later this month, early September, or early August. LeanLaw has officially entered a partnership with Intuit, specific to QuickBooks Online Advanced and Law. You've heard me speak to this sort of happening within QuickBooks within Intuit as part of their 5 big bets. So they have 5 big bets over 5 years. You can look it up. It's very transparent. The old CEO left, the new CEO came in, and they strategized moving forward with 5 big bets. One of those big bets was a movement into mid-market. So they wanted to move and price disrupt and create a product specifically to mid-market clients, 5 million to 50 million in revenue. There's a huge open opportunity because the other players in there, the NetSuites of the world, are really big behemoth entities. And so Intuit saw an opportunity. They created the product QuickBooks Online Advanced. It came out. Everyone said, yikes, I'm getting billed for usage for the same product and getting charged twice as much. But what we're seeing is already layers of features beginning to come in. The specific focus for QuickBooks Online Advanced and mid-market was professional services. So they always said that professional services was best aligned with how they wanted to use QuickBooks Online Advanced. And Lynda and Sarah, you guys can jump in. I know, Lynda, you're very active in these conversations. The tip of the spear in focus was law. So they saw that the market segmentation of looking specifically at law, but in terms of mid-market opportunities and what other players were there from an accounting perspective, was there. So that is their focus. And fortunately, LeanLaw has the opportunity to collaborate with them in a 2-pronged pathway. So phase 1, which has already started, is marketing. And Lynda's also doing some marketing with them as well on the same topic. And that's us helping to frame messaging and tactics. The second piece of that is a sales collaboration. What that means is that we'll actually see opportunities come from Intuit to co-sell, because it's very difficult for a law firm to say, hey, I have this accounting application. What goes well with it? What pairs with that accounting application? And LeanLaw is there. We're specifically going to actualize some mid-market features, and one in particular is what they call custom form fields, which allows to do all sorts of interesting things with communications, with reporting, and potentially invoice presentation down the road, meaning adding extra data fields. Phase 1 of that custom form field, where they've exposed this feature in QuickBooks to us so we can write it in, will happen. We're told we'll get some notes on it next week, but it's expected to be in August. And that's a huge deal because we have data that we produce in the LeanLaw environment that, coupled with the QuickBooks data, can create some really interesting reports. So LeanLaw is super, super excited. Phase 2 of the relationship is has some specifics, and I can say that it's related with some in-product integration. So users might see, say they're a lawyer, QuickBooks Online Advanced, and we'll see LeanLaw as sort of a feature. Oh, you want this report? Here's this app that will extend that functionality of QuickBooks for law firms. So we're super excited. We're working really hard. It's a huge milestone in the company. It brings obviously a lot of credibility and validation to what we're doing. It also means that we're going to work our tails off in the next year to fulfill the relationship. We're a tiny little company, and they could just, we're just riding their wake and trying to keep up. What this means to this group is opportunity. And what I mean by that is as we evolve, we're going to be looking to our LeanLaw Accounting Pro community to help us create those relationships with those clients, help them onboard, and help them win. And I really mean this in all sincerity. In the next year to 18 months, you're going to see a lot of activity on mid-market deals. And one of the core requirements of mid-market deals is that there are accounting professionals that can help them make the most of functionally replacing what they're doing today. And then in the second phase, mastering and really taking advantage of the capacity and capabilities of the QuickBooks Online Advanced LeanLaw environment as it relates to reporting and other workflow automation. So we're super excited, and I want everyone to pay close attention to this, because I really do believe it's a significant milestone for certainly it's a milestone for LeanLaw, but it's directly related to this group. Okay.
Jonathan,
yeah.
one thing I'd like to offer to everybody too is when I was out in California, Matthew and I made a lot of videos on the features of QuickBooks Online Advanced. You're going to start to see them come out in our group if you haven't joined our group. If you're curious about it, because I know you have to buy it to actually get a chance to see it, there is a link where you can go on as a sample file, but it's just a test file. If you want to learn about the features, we're going to start to drop them. So we did them on everything that makes QuickBooks Online Advanced different than QuickBooks Plus. So if you want to join the group and start to see some of the videos, we thought it would be a good value add, because a lot of accountants and bookkeepers have been reaching out and they said, we don't even know what this product looks like. So we did take the time to make little short, like 5-minute videos, but you'll start to see them show up in our group.
Yeah, and I will say that have patience with Intuit. If you remember how they launched QuickBooks Online.
Oh, there'll be more. There'll be more stuff coming.
And everyone said, "Oh my gosh, why? It's it's terrible. It's this and that." This is
one of them.
This is a very important initiative for their company, and they're going to keep enhancing the platform and making it more full-featured, more focused on this unique set of mid-market clients. One little nugget that we've heard is that one of the things that they're focused on is desktop conversion. So know that that is something that they're interested. That's not like totally out there with public consumption, but that's something I've inferred from our conversations. And I just know that they want to bring these professional services organizations into the online. And that's fairly consistent with what they announced when they made that restructuring of 700 people being laid off, was moving to AI and moving more of an online environment. They can't do AI the way they want to do AI in desktop. It just doesn't work. You need the back-end servers, the online servers to be there to do AI. Okay, QuickBooks Connect, I'm just mentioning it saying it's been canceled, and LeanLaw is going to do something, and we don't know what. We're going to wait to see what Intuit's going to do and then play off of that. But we expect to have something online there. Another note with I'll kind of go back to the LAP program. I don't have a slide for it. Actually, I've had a few notes. I had it here. We do actually have updating in the program. From the macro level, we're working diligently in this company over the next 6 months to overhaul the whole program and have it grow up. We have 3 main tenets of the LeanLaw Accounting program. Number 1 is community. This is an example of it. We see other things forming that I can't announce yet, but will happen in the future through relationships with some other folks. 2 would be education. So it's very important that we always continue to educate each other. So it's not just us trying to tell you how to do trust accounting. It's you to teach us what we need to do and learn. So it's a 2-way conversation there. And the 3rd tenet is collaboration. And collaboration is, of course, not only giving us each opportunities in terms of winning new clients, but then the idea of onboarding. So that collaboration piece is going to be exemplified when Sarah and I and Lynda start chatting, because that's completely articulates that relationship. So we brought in our new marketing director. She is looking with the sales activity and the overall saying, how do we change the program? Tracy Todd's coming in from the content side. So we really should see some upgrades and some new structure happen in the program over the next 6 months, but it'll take us a minute. We can only move as fast as we can move. So Tracy did make some progress this month, and we have, I think by early August, we'll have our first modules live in the learning management system. These will be true modules with progress and reports that will help you go in. They're obviously initially focused on basic understanding and knowledge of LeanLaw. We're going to be using it both in onboarding our clients, but also the LAP community. So that's live. You'll get some updates on that. And the other thing I wanted to mention just on the LAP program specifically would be, I wanted to highlight this, which is Lauren Fogelman and I are doing a webinar Monday or Tuesday that I saved the thing here to send everyone the notice. I'll find it before I leave this conversation, but the sign up for it. So we're doing a new 3-part series. These are the 3 that are there. The first one's July 28th. I would absolutely encourage you to sign up for the cleanup projects one, and I'll tell you why. she's basically talking about how to eliminate cleanup surprises, but fundamentally take that, hey Matthew, take that initial cleanup, which is the first phase when you're doing a lot of the analysis, and turn that into an opportunity. And there's one client in the LeanLaw accounting community that Lauren worked with as a coach, meaning one-on-one. She engaged Lauren, and she took something that was a cost to her. She was losing money, this bookkeeping person, and flipped it. And one of her first projects, she charged, I think, like $40,000, some very large number on a cleanup. She just changed her whole mentality about the value of that sort of initial due diligence and cleanup, and helped her position it to being something of a revenue opportunity versus a cost for her. And that changed her whole mindset. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. You can see we're going to talk about packaging and, more things to, focus yourself on the right client. So that lineup is there, and Laura and I are really good together. We've worked well. Okay. Any questions in the group before I jump ahead? No. Okay. So remember, this is an interactive thing. I purposely we don't set these up as webinars. We set them up as meetings so that people can contribute and act. You can chat amongst yourselves if you want to have chats. You could ask me a question. You can tell me to stop. This is not meant to be, completely one way. Okay. LeanLaw product updates. So one big note here is, and I'm stewarding this, not leading it. We will get better in the next 30 to 60 days at communicating what we call 4 different sets of updates. So 4 different sets of changes to the product. Major feature updates, like I'm going to speak to like one down below, which is, we're calling it adjustments, but it's write downs. That's a major update. Minor features, which might be something smaller that may impact one group like an operator, but is not like a huge major project. Feature additions, we had a feature and we just added something to it. And then bug fixes. So we're classifying them. We're going to get better at articulating them both in product support and out in the group. We've initiated a monthly now, meetup may not be the right word, but a product review where we're highlighting those for our team, for our clients and LAPs if they want to see it live. So we're going to get better at that. It's been a big focus of ours. We're going to have a page on our website that shows all the updates and all those things. So we're adding some really nice workflow to get better at communicating what our features are and how to use them. What we added since we last talked, not a lot in terms of what you've seen, but it's really this is the most important thing. So our CTO, Fred Willerup, took it upon himself and his key primary engineer to bring essentially the overall LeanLaw code base from a more antiquated version of .NET to the most current version. Which was a huge, huge undertaking, and we're going to see that actualized probably this week or next live to the clients. Most folks won't know it. They won't. The only thing they'll see is enhancements in reporting. It'll be faster, just because of the way that the data is managed. I see people chatting, and I'll get to it. I don't know if someone has a chat for me. Lynn, if you're in the chat, you guys can just.
No, it's just
something.
We just said we love Fred.
Oh yeah, Fred's great. So this is really important because it's 2 things. One is it sets the platform for us moving over the next 1 to 3 years or 2 to 4 years. It increases the performance of the platform, but just as importantly, think of it like this. This is the best analogy I can give for this last feature. The front door of your house is like right there, right? So you go in the front door and there's the kitchen, there's the living room, there's the dining room, you're in the house, right? And so that, from an authentication standpoint, is a little challenging because you let someone in and they're right there, which means everything's under one house. So what this does is allow us to put basically a gate out front. And the gate out front then says, over in here is the guest house, and over here is the main house, and over here is the garage. And they're somewhat attached, but they're not necessarily attached. And so by distancing that allows LeanLaw to have a better architecture, not only for security, but also for allowing other integrations to happen later. So it opens up our environment and makes the structure more nimble and more, how do I say it, architecturally sound, such that we can do far more, we are far more flexible in terms of how and who we can work with. So we're really stoked about that. Gravity Payments is coming in for trust requests, the ability inside of LeanLaw to request a trust. We need 2 more micro clients as part of our beta program. We've got 2 what we call macros. So if anyone's, yeah, I think so. Yes, Matthew, I think single sign-on is a big part of that. What I'm looking for is 2 clients that are willing to and are interested in being part of our high-touch beta program. It'll be a little loose around the edges, but if you have a client that wants to do electronic trust requests, Gravity will be inside of LeanLaw. It will go out and make a request and handle all the accounting associated with it. So it stages all the deposits and the proper liabilities. So just ping me if you have some clients that you might be interested in that. We added a new trust report, which I might have time to show, that instead of having all of those trust ledgers and trust reports under billing, and I'll demonstrate this in a second, under billing and then under trust request, we made a report that has the exact same data. What that means is that when we have permissions and we turn off the billing section to certain users, they can still get access to the trust information. So we can basically segment that out. The last thing we did was it got rolled out this month, but it's permissions. I mentioned it last month. It's now live in the product, and I'm going to show a little bit of that in a second. So let me bring over my little product demo that I wanted to do today. I'm only going to spend a few minutes on this. So it's not meant to, where the heck is it? Okay, it's over on this. I had to get my screens. Can everyone see my screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to show 2 features. One, I showed this to Lynda and Sarah Friday, and they were giggly, so I'm going to show it to the group. you guys made me want to show it to everyone. So one of the things that LeanLaw already does is a trust statement. So in the memo field, we have an entire little series of trust communication, and it's all automated, meaning, I've got some retainer balances and whatnot, and it's communicating what's happening. And know that you can estimate, you can augment that, and this is sort of the ledger of things that you can tweak based on what your client might want. So I'm under trust accounting, under settings, and I'm just kind of showing we had a statement. But that doesn't show us what historically has happened. It just is pertinent to this specific invoice. So one of the things that we did was we added this ability to add an additional trust statement to the invoice before you may deliver it to the client. So I'm in the billing section in QuickBooks, and I'm going in here and saying for this month, I've kind of set this up, but I'm showing all, non-paid invoices with trust. And these are these 2 I already have a statement, but I can in batch say, attach a trust statement now. What does that do? Well, that now, and these are all paid. I want to make a note of that. They're paid because I want to show the payment after, right? I want to show that I paid that invoice. So I have already gone through the LeanLaw process. I've applied the trust payment within LeanLaw. I've gone into LeanLaw and said, show me the paid ones. And I said this month because this is the month that I was doing the work based on invoice date this month. So I've gone in already, paid these invoices, and all I'm simply doing now is a last step before I deliver to the client, which is adding an additional trust statement. I just want to stage that correctly. I'm not showing you here how to pay an invoice from trust. I'm assuming you know that. Ask questions if you want it later. So in batch, I can say attach a trust statement. What does that look like? What does that do? Well, I've got one here. So in this invoice to the Fire Engine Corp, I've got a bunch of activity. I've paid this invoice, so there's no balance due. I have my normal retainer balance that LeanLaw would produce. But in addition, LeanLaw delivered this. So it took the ledger activity from the beginning. You can see this goes back to February, including the payment I made today, and says, here's your funds in trust, and here's all the activity. And it added that as an attachment, as a PDF, in the same way we can do it. And that can do 2 things. For obvious reasons, we can memorialize not only what happened in this micro task of paying the invoice as a function of compliance, but we can then say, at this moment in time, this is the state of your trust account. So those are 2 different things. One is the macro trust account, So we recognize and understand all the transactional activity, but the micro, this is what we're doing. So I will tell you and admit, this whole workflow is clumsy. Fred, quote unquote, slapped it in. That's the nature of product development. You don't always have the luxury of going through and doing all of the user experience to the T that you want in its first iteration. I guarantee you.
It's still well loved.
I'm sorry?
I said it's still well loved. I'm seeing the comments are coming in. It's as giddy as we were the other day when you showed us.
Real happy.
I just love the relief pressure that happens to our clients who have to produce this in a Word or an augmented setup to make this happen. So I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, so, and it's, you know, and it's all QuickBooks data. We're just putting it into a workflow that makes sense. So I guarantee you that in months to come, one of the things we're going to do is overhaul much of what happens after you either send an invoice or you pay an invoice, right? Because there's these, I have to deliver it. There are some things that maybe I need to pay some expenses that were associated with that invoice because now we've received funds, or there might be some compensation that I need to distribute funds back to attorneys based on these invoices and sort of checking them off. So in the months to come, it's not like right up next, but in the months to come, you'll see some additional workflow about how we then, you know, handle the next steps once something's been paid. But I just wanted to bring the group. So I'm going to come back and say, I paid all these invoices with LeanLaw using my normal pay from trust, right? And they went from a not paid status to a paid. I then went and highlighted paid and used the time filter to say this period so I could see the batch of them, right? Because it's all based on invoice date. So if I'm doing a batch at the end of the month and the invoice is 7/31, I can just say, show me this month if it's, or last month if it's August going back to July. I then can come in here and say, attach trust statement, right? So now I've attached that nice little statement. Once that's done, I can deliver via email. So that allows you to, can you attach a statement to an unpaid invoice? Yes, you can, Brandy. Of course, it just doesn't show this. It doesn't show the non-paid balance. So then I went and said I can deliver this via email. That sends it through the QuickBooks architecture, or I can download them as single PDFs and deliver them that way. Or a lot of you folks may not know this. Combining them takes all of these invoices. So say you have a client that has one invoice with lots of matters, and we want to combine that into one PDF. LeanLaw will put a cover sheet, not a cover sheet, but a sort of, what do you call it, Lynda? Like
an overview. An overview. It's really great when you work with insurance companies and you get to send out a whole bunch of them and you have to a lot of times fax them. Actually copy that and put it in the email. It's in the fax. It's great.
I'll show you one. So it basically gives you a nice little inventory of what's there, and then all the invoices will follow it. So that's a really helpful feature if you have a client that has multiple invoices or a client that has one client but has lots of invoices. We produced it for that specific reason. So you can see it puts this little header up, says what's the fees, what's the expenses, what's the amount, and then all the invoices follow. Okay. The other thing I wanted to quickly show, and I've got 4 minutes to do it, is permissions. This is live in the product with one exception, this piece. So what does this mean? And this is a pro feature. We've had some discussion about what nuance will be our core. Remember, 2 LeanLaw products. Core is our basic product. Pro is our more advanced product. But this is fundamentally one of the pro features. In terms of its fullness, we might have some light. I'm arguing that there's some nuance to this that should be available to core users. So the first thing I'm in, again, settings, user permissions. I have timekeeper, my roles, timekeeper, paralegal, attorney, principal, operator. And in most instances, this covers all the characters in a law firm. We might see something in the future of an of console or someone who's kind of outside, but in general, this works. So I then look at a specific person and I can then drill into these things and say, what do I want them to be? I absolutely probably don't want a timekeeper to view and adjust rates. And maybe I don't want a timekeeper to even add time for other users. So that just basically takes that off the table. Under expenses, can they view expenses? Yeah, but maybe we don't want them to edit them. Under clients and matters, do we want them to create it? Probably not. Certainly not view matter rates. Certainly not use edit rates. So you can see how you can really begin to bring down what someone views and or can edit. Now that plays particular in the billing. And you think about attorneys, you certainly might want attorneys to view invoices, but you don't want them to create drafts and you don't want them to submit them to QuickBooks, right? So that basically says they can view them, they can edit electronically and approve. That's all we want them to do. Under trust accounting, same kind of thing. They can view it, but we don't want to give attorneys ability to do deposits and payments. So that takes it off the table. I'm actually on timekeepers, and then on reports. If I don't want timekeepers to see reports, you can see it's completely turned off. And you have to remember, when you turn that off, this reports tab in LeanLaw, poof, goes away. They don't see it. So
I was going to remind you to say that because it's happened, right?
Yeah, so that happened to
Yeah.
me with we had some people in the some client did it and all of a sudden their staff was like, it's gone. And so there's some communication that needs to happen when you do that. So this filtering system is really powerful. We did create some, more open, balanced, and more closed if you don't want to get into the minutia for each role. But I actually think these are okay. I think these are going to be, personally, what I feel like these are going to be core features so that you can't go in and edit, but you can make it more or less constricted. And this detail will be more for the pro user, because when you get into bigger firms, they want to get into that specificity of what users can and can't do. Any questions on this?
No, but this is really great for when you work with the mid-market, especially because we get all these different asks. Paralegal in one firm might not have the same permissions, and this has been a big ask. So this is really wonderful. So thank you, Fred.
Yeah, Matthew, I have no idea what you mean by what's a fax machine.
I mentioned fax machine. He's just being.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Like, what's a fax machine? I don't know what a fax. I mean, I can tell
Like
you.
an 8-track.
Tell you what a fax machine is. Okay, so I just wanted to show I want to show one last thing because I'm not over it quite yet. I mentioned that trust report. So I'm under reports, and now I'm going to trust report. And this is a really useful feature, is that it shows me, all of the trust activity, and I can show matters, include $0 balances if they're there, even ones that are below some evergreen numbers. What we're seeing from left to right is all of the clients. I can make it who I'm responsible for, which is a smaller subset. I shouldn't have done that there. Yeah. I can see what the live trust balance is. That's a live number. This is showing that there's multiple accounts. So it shows me if there's a different trust bank account it's being held in. Think of multi-state. Some do for escrow and for retainer. It shows me my ready to bill amount. So my ready to bill amount is how much do I have, how much do I have on the table that's ready to be billed in the next billing period? And then it shows me my trust to WIP ratio. When it says 100%, it means that my billable of 187 is 100% covered by my $2,800. When it shows 98%, it's saying that 98% of my $5,000 is covered by the $4,800 that's in trust. Why is this valuable? Because I can sort by trust to WIP and say, I got a problem with this Jerry Sachs client. I've got way more billable than I have trust, and so on. So it allows for those firms that are really paying attention to the retainers to quickly get at where they're running. If I drill into it, I get the same if I get that trust detail. That's the whole historical trust. So instead of having to go what I was to billing trust account and get it here, which is under this tab we don't necessarily want users to have access to, I can now get that same report here, and it can be printed for the client. What that means is that we've added it's not a fancy print, we can't put logos and things like that, but it is professional enough that you can see the client, the attention of the person we want it to be, the client, and all that detail there. Or we can print it or export it. So, okay, so that's one report I just wanted to show everyone because I think it's a really important report. I'm going to close the demo, and we're going to move in. Oh, real quick thing. Sorry, I'm over my time, but I just want to mention it. What's next? So August work will be write-downs. That's slated, that's scheduled, that's happening. So proper write-downs, meaning I built 10 hours. Lynda's my supervising attorney. She says to me, I can only bill 6. What happens to that 4 hours? So true proper write-downs. We're really stoked about Microsoft 365. That's September work. That'll be in the product by the fall. That's done. It's agreed on. So we'll think about billable opportunities inside of Microsoft 365. So someone's working in a calendar appointment, an email, capture that time, have it staged in LeanLaw for later. And then what's slated next after that is my page, having someone come into the product and see information that is specific to them, AR, open invoices, whatever it might be, so they can see their data really easily instead of having to find it all over the place. Okay. Any questions before we get into today? All right. So the conversation today is how to onboard. And I just want to set the table for the conversation by using an overview that I've used when selling LeanLaw. So I'm going to start by just giving a quick little structure so that we can frame the conversation a bit. And it's missing one important piece that I'm going to ask Lynda and Sarah to fill in as soon as I frame it, which is the accounting side. So it's missing a 1.a. So I'm going to let them speak to that in a minute. But I want to explain the LeanLaw. When you're doing onboarding, it's 3 phases of work. It's always 3 phases of work that I've seen in the years that I've done it. Phase 1 ends and starts with the definition of a cutover date. What's a cutover date? It's the date that the law firm wants to use the new time tracking tool, the new tool. That's that they've stopped using the old tool and they're using the new tool. Everything is derived from that date. You cannot ever not, you don't know where to plan things if you don't use that date. And what typically happens in this first phase is the idea of data migration. We're moving data from one environment to the next, so it's staged. Application setup, which includes onboarding and training users. And of course, accounting migration staging. It doesn't necessarily mean, I'm going to let Lynda, it's my first question to Lynda and Sarah, so I'm going to hold it. Doesn't mean that the accounting is all set up. It just means that we're beginning to stage that migration and set specific dates for that piece of it. Phase 2 ends with the first invoicing cycle. And why it ends with that? Because phase 2 is really about the how-tos. How do I do this in the new tool versus how I did it in the old tool? My users are asking questions. And the first critical task is getting through that invoicing cycle. That's the first, and that ends phase 1. And the reason I stage that and bookmark it as phase 1 is because it focuses your efforts on getting the functional training in place and not getting distracted by what gets into phase 3, which is mastery and reporting. And phase 3 really tends to happen over the following 2 months. It can trickle out, but really by the 3rd billing cycle, you should be into a mastery phase of the functional training. Now, maybe you might do some other things and extend and add another app to the ecosystem like Expensify for expense tracking or Bill.com or whatever it might be. But the core functional training of what they were doing in the old system to new should be mastered within an additional 2 billing cycles. And I always say that the first billing cycle is the most painful because they're trying in their head to say, I did it this way, how do I do it here? And there's lots of micro conversations and videos and shared screens, and I'm going to let Sarah speak to that and Lynda. But by the 2nd cycle, it should be 100% easier. And by the 3rd cycle, the questions should be about, well, could we do this now? Like they start to then say, could we do something different? And that's when sort of a lot of really fun happens because onboarding is about functional training. It is not about mastery and trying to, whiz bang them with lots of new workflows that aren't material to what they're trying to replace. And I want to just focus the group and say that's to me the most important thing, because if you don't win and master the functional training, you're hosed, because everyone has a bad product experience. And LeanLaw spends a ton of time training. at our own expense. And the reason behind it is, boy, it's miserable when someone's not trained well, right? It's just so tenuous and hard on everyone. But more importantly, for our business model, it's all about retention. And the same for your business models. If we train people well, by the time you get going with them, it's all about retention, and your conversations are far more upmarket and sophisticated because you're talking about business improvement and you're not talking about how to. So that's just, I wanted to lay that framework in, because every time I've always thought about pitching onboarding and explaining it to a lay user, because you're understanding that all these people from law firms aren't software people. They don't know how to do this. Okay, so I just wanted to lay that framework. So Lynda or Sarah, I'll let one of you two lead. Tell me what phase one is from your perspective, from the accounting side. Give them some overview through these phases. What's happening in your perspective?
It's our kickoff. It's our validation of what kind of data do you have? How much do you have in your client information, in your trust information? How much of that is going to move over to the new platform, right, Lynda? We're educating a lot in the first. We're educating as to what Jonathan's going to ask of you when it comes time to pull the trigger and build the new platform. Essentially, is how we build, how we validate and help them, and in that process, and Lynda could speak to this, is we see a lot of quirkiness of, well, but I want matter numbers, or I want client numbers, or I don't want anything at all. And we're like, whoa, back up. What's the end goal here? So maybe we should pick up a little bit.
They kind of become the kid in the candy store when they find out that they can get this, and then they can get this, and they, oh, can I have this? And they want a program that they dislike so much that they're now moving to a new platform. All of a sudden, once they get going, they're like, they still want every single thing that was in the other side, even things that they don't really even need. Right down to like, I have 9,000 customers over the 20 years I've been in business. Can I bring them all over, even though they're all closed and I'll probably never go back to them again? And you kind of have to sit there and say, okay, look, I keep telling Jonathan, can you charge like $1 a head? So then they might be a little bit more conservative with the clients that they bring over, because then they spend time archiving them all. They just want everything. They want everything, right, at the kitchen sink. And then we have to stay the course. Sarah and I've kind of mapped out and laid out really a pathway in migration, so that, and we've been tweaking it as we go along. So we're getting better and better. And LeanLaw 100% is our partner in the whole flow. They are there to train the attorneys. We train the accounting staff, and they are always supportive of us. So know that if you work with them, unlike a lot of apps, because we've been dealing with a lot of apps, none of them support you like LeanLaw does. They want their product to succeed too. They want the 5-star reviews, so that they are right there for us always.
Well, I think that's a derivative. I mean, thank you for that, Lynda, but I think that's a derivative that's really an importance, whether it's, candidly, whether it's LeanLaw, Clio, or some other tool, is that success won't come unless they know both sides of the fence. Mm-hmm. And we know we can't be successful without a successful migration or actualization in QuickBooks Online. We know, and for your side, if we suck, it's going to be detrimental in achieving this new workflow. So it has to be collaborative, and you really have to represent the other side. One more I want to make, I think, how do you deal with this, Lynda, when they have this mindset that they want this function workflow report, not because it's really needed, it's because it's been institutionalized, right? So sometimes so how do you overcome that moment where we've always done it this way? And you sort of say, well, why? And what value is that, right? But they still sort of insist on having it. So how do you manage that moment?
So Sarah and I have gotten really good at creating a lot of different reports inside. That's the beauty of this platform, because now you've got the reports that are in LeanLaw, and then we're able to mix up and create things in QuickBooks, especially advanced, right? So we're talking the mid-market, you're talking advanced.
Yeah.
The attorneys are coming from programs that cost $15,000, and then they have a service fee every year or a support fee. So they don't think twice. We always start high and we don't really ever go into the other programs. We stay with advanced because we can customize with the custom fields, and custom fields are good right now. They're going to get better, but the custom fields is where we're able to do a lot of things and make it look like, because maybe the older partner wants one thing on that report that was always there that really doesn't have a value, but in their mind, they have to have it. We're able to create it for them so that they've got the same look as best we can. Now, there are some times when we have to say, this is not necessary. And you have to just, like Sarah said, educate them them as to why they need it.
Well, and the big thing is you kind of see it with the partners, the difference, because you have the older partners having one set mindset, and then the younger ones pushing for a newer look. So they're looking to all of us, and I'm speaking to the whole group, is we're their guide for that. But what I will say is it's the sensitivity of knowing that this is such a tailored thing. This is not cookie cutter. There's quirks to every, I mean, you all know this, there's quirks to how every law firm does things, from how they pay themselves to how they recognize revenue, what they think is right. And we're the ones really like feathering in the pieces that are integral and saying, hey, okay, you had this before. The pure structure of why you needed this was for what? Mm-hmm. And when they peel it back, they go, oh, well, I guess it's not. Once they decide they don't like it or they don't need it, they go, okay, we're good. Let's move on from that.
So Sarah brings up two really important notes about phase one, which is the tension of the why. You know, why are they making this move? And in many instances, it's boomers retiring and Gen X is taking control. It could be a financial trigger, but fundamentally, it's because of modernization, right? No one moves. Law firms don't really care about $5,000 here or there on an annualized basis for sizable firms. So they're moving for modernization functionality, and there's tension there because the old guard is holding on and the new guard isn't. I think the second thing that Sarah said that was super important, and I just learned this, I'll give an example. We onboarded a firm, and we didn't ask a critical question, which was, explain to me from soup to nuts your invoicing process, right? So we just assumed they invoiced in a certain way, and this firm, all the attorneys do their own invoicing. Literally, like, produce draft invoices, and historically it sent them out. And so with what Sarah was saying, and I just want to really crystallize in this first phase, is you have to ask all of the pertinent questions so that you understand how they're doing it today. Because your job is to translate that functional workflow, that data and reporting into this new environment and manage what we're saying. This, sometimes the clients want something and, you've got to create a report to do it. And sometimes you have to convince them that it's not worthy. Lynda, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as silly as this sounds, it comes down to you do a meeting and the older partners, you just can tell like they're not into this change, but they're going for it because the younger partners all want it. And then they are like, I want my invoice template to look just like it did in PC law. And if you guys want one, I have a template. I call it old school invoice. And we always float it into the file and it never gets used, but I created on a Word document and it does work with QuickBooks. It's the ugliest thing that most of the law firms and it keeps the old partner happy. They end up never using it because they see how well all the other invoices and how pretty the other one looks. But it's hysterical because I said to Sarah all the time, here we go, let's grab the old school invoice template and throw it in to keep the older partner happy.
It does come down to that. It does honestly come down to that. It's their billing because it represents them. And it's just, you just have to work through the personality of it and appreciate it.
Yeah, don't underestimate the importance of the invoice to attorneys because it is a representation of their brand. So in this first phase, one of the important things is to identify who you're interacting with and what you're going to get out of them. So Sarah, how do who are the players that you're interacting with and what do you need from them? And be brief because we've got 13 minutes left and I want to get to phase 2 and 3.
I love it. Okay, it's varying. It depends. Like in this last one, it was a little shocking because we started with the IT person. I was like, oh, normally we start with the firm owners or we have a commingling of a super important administrative individual, whoever that is, and one owner. That's not what happened here. So once you get the foundation of who it is, then you start to, Lynda knows me, I'm pretty brass and like, let's engage. Who's this person? Let's talk. Making sure that they feel involved. If they want to come to the meeting, they're always invited. And then you'll see that they won't.
Yeah.
And then you really do the strong arm and the legwork with the individuals, because ultimately you're trying to understand what is their workflow? What are they doing? How do you need to address it? And you might not have all the answers, and that's okay. We don't always, but we come back to staple number one. What did we start with? And then we move from there. So,
yeah, so I would summarize it, because I want to push this along a little bit. There's really kind of three characters that we deal with. Number one is a general partner, or someone's representing the attorney voice and essentially the management of the firm. And they're sort of maybe making all the decisions, like the ultimate decisions, because the second person is the billing operations manager. And it tends to be a her. I don't mean to be sexist, but it really does tend to be a female. She's sort of bringing the product typically to the general partner and saying, and translating, saying, this is how it's going to be functional. That person tends to have no responsibility, so they can say, no, we're not going to work with that. But they don't always have yes, meaning the yes comes from the next level. Yes, we're going to hire them. Yes, we're going to buy the software. What that general partner needs is understanding them as the attorney using it, because they're representing their colleagues, time tracking, how do I get my data, what's my invoice look like. The operations manager is really functional training about running invoicing. So they get into the QuickBooks side, the accounting side, all of the how-tos. And in this first phase, you'll start to see the dialogue that sometimes that general partner just goes away. And once they feel satisfied, sometimes they stay in it. The firm we're talking about, she's still heavily involved. She's been there at the root level. So it just depends on what the firm is. Let's kind of move into phase two, which is this sort of invoicing cycle, because we've assumed that we kind of skipped over data migration from the LeanLaw side. I'm happy we could do a whole hour on this conversation, and maybe we'll do an addendum next month and talk specifically about data. But when we talk about the how-tos, LeanLaw really steps back in this process, because we've trained the attorneys in their sort of time tracking. We get an occasional how-to. Tell me, Lynda, how do you then get them into this sort of functional training combined with now what's happening with the data file, with the QuickBooks file? And we have 10 minutes left, so be brief.
Well, with what we do with our training is when we start our migration, we start to do the migrating and we get the client list to LeanLaw. When the client list is with LeanLaw, we already delineate a line in the sand. We are going to start tracking time in LeanLaw, say August 1st. First billing will happen in September. So there's that gray month where it's a little bit, they're still in the old program, but they're, we're still doing the accounting in the old program, but the tracking of the time for LeanLaw, because it's kind of that, we have to make sure that that all lines up exactly. One of the things that we find too is we'll end up giving them, we try to give them things to do, so they're always kind of working in the background. We'll give them a way to practice in QuickBooks and play around in the practice file, so they keep doing that while we're kind of doing the things in the background. And then Sarah and I really work hard on training the accountant or the bookkeeper on staff, when that's the person that we do the training with, where LeanLaw will do the training with the attorneys. And the attorney training kind of happens so I'd say around the same time as we start to work with the client on that. But we really do there's so much to be done before we get to the training with the bookkeeper, that it kind of all lines up in the right order. Right, Sarah? I mean, just basically kind of lines up. They always want to start, like, as soon as the file's done, they want to start, like, training.
I will say, LeanLaw does such a great job, and we encourage the person that's supposed to work with us to participate in those meetings, because it may not feel relevant to them at the moment, but remember, they're going to be the ones ultimately supporting the firm and having to be that initial person to answer the questions. So a lot of times our training has nothing to do with QuickBooks. It has more to do with, how do you answer that? What is the need for that? Where does that go? What's the best place? And so we sort of basically partner in that. But Jonathon does such a great job, and Tracy and explaining how it needs to work. And we find that any support staff needs to participate. It's a must do. You have to.
So in this sort of functional training, just really quick, what kind of tools you're using, how often you're meeting, you know, what is it? Because again, especially if you're coming from a tool like PC Law as an example, where the accounting is baked in, you're not only introducing a new invoicing tool, LeanLaw, you're introducing a whole new accounting package. And now it's a full featured accounting package, which has a lot of other things that PC Law never had. So Lynda, because I know you've thought this through a lot, not to say you haven't, Sarah, but what does that look like? Do you have a checklist? So this is how you do a check. This is how you do a bill, you know, going through AP and AR and payroll. How do you essentially train all that functional side of it?
Well, we do that in the crossover month. So there's that month when they start working the accounting that we do all the back work. And then the month that they start doing the accounting, we do it hand in hand, and we do weekly training. We try not to overwhelm them. We try to keep it to an hour. As they start to get into the program, because QuickBooks is very easy to use and LeanLaw is pretty easy to use, we'll start to work with them. If they get any problems, they can send us an email or communicate in whatever channel that we just determine. It's usually Lisio. And then we create videos if they get stuck. So they keep the little videos. We record the session so they can go back to it. They usually pick it up fairly quickly, don't you think, Sarah? We don't usually, I mean, there's little quirky things that happen that we have to help them with, like if they have a bounce check or, you know, the typical stuff if you're training in QuickBooks, but they usually do pick up on it very quickly.
Pretty well. I mean, it's not hard. It's just understanding the workflow, I think, and understanding the workflow to their firm. Those are the really key elements to that whole piece.
The second thing Sarah just said was, I think, the most important thing, which is the workflow relative to their firm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Really listening to how they did it, interpreting that and translating into QuickBooks, and being able to use language from how they did it. In PC Law, you did this function this way. In QuickBooks, it's called this, right? Because they're in their head trying to think, I did it in this tool, how do I do it in that tool? Let's move into phase 3, the mastery and reporting. One thing I didn't mention in phase 1, what's really super important is to get an inventory of reports and data that they think is important. Part of that is because, you know, from a LeanLaw perspective, we got to make sure we can get it to them, number one. But in a QuickBooks perspective, it might mean classing, using custom advanced form fields, other tactics to make sure that you're staging the data correctly. Because what you don't want to do, and I think Lynda and Sarah and I can all appreciate this, is get to phase 3 and they say, okay, how do I generate this? And you're like, I didn't know I needed to. And now you've got to go back and try to figure out how to do that. So just, Lynda, walk through the discovery phase of reporting, the functional reporting that we do in phase kind of 2, which appears in phase 3 after you've done your first invoicing, and then what the opportunity is long-term, you know, reach or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, for us, it's crucial to know the reporting at the very beginning of the engagement, because that has to do a lot with how we set up the file. So you really have to know the end game to be able to map it out the way for the client. So that's really, really important. And then once we get involved, what Sarah and I have found is that the more we get involved with the partner. We always tease the partners like, oh, you do the short story, you're involved in the migration, and they always get a big kick out of it. But then we become very supportive to them. Most of these platforms that they're on, like a PC Law or Juris, those are the desktop ones. We've worked through, God, there's so many of them times. There's so many.
So many.
They aren't even aware of what they can get out for data because they're not accustomed to being a real full accounting platform. So you can start to razzle dazzle them with what some of the metrics that they didn't even know that they could track. And it gets to be exciting. And then they realize that maybe that person that's been doing all the invoicing and the data entry to the bills, that person just doesn't, they may have been an admin and they just landed that job of doing that work. And that they found out that they've got now accountants that understand all of those pieces. And then they were like, you know, maybe we could keep you on afterwards and we could be the support team for the bookkeeping staff that's doing that kind of data entry. And it ends up being an ongoing engagement when we could stay on for support purposes for the whole team. And we can also stay on and help with getting that advanced advisory stuff that is, you keep hearing the buzzword, it's kind of like the thing, everybody wants to do advisory work. This is a great way to do it, especially when you get into those firms that are bigger.
Yeah.
Well, and the partners really, they trust you.
Yes.
I mean, you're providing such a value that they didn't expect that they had or needed or whatever the outcome is. So you become a new person to them, and it's a really valid space to be in.
what I found in phase 3 is that the relationship changes to like solving very specific problems that are really unique in edge cases, number one. Some continue workflow functional training, right? Especially with some people, it takes more than one cycle to get it institutionalized. But as they say, 3 is a whole different dialogue with them. And 3 is when you get the opportunity to really say, well, where do you want to go and what do you want to do? Meaning, what information do you want to get out of this reporting and whatnot? And what other tools in the ecosystem might be of value? Invoice Sherpa, if they're a hardcore retail law firm, something like that. I don't know if Invoice is good or not, but that my point is Expensify, if they've got lawyers out in the field getting lots of expenses in the moment. We've seen law firms add that in the what we call the mastery phase, because they're in the field, they capture the expense, they tag it, it comes into QuickBooks, it's pushed to LeanLaw automatically. So we automated something that took, multiple hand touches. Now it's completely electronic and staged. So phase 3 in this mastery really is about building the trust and having good sound workflows in phase 1 and 2 and having good data. So then you really change the context of the relationship. And to Lynda's point, never be afraid to be an onboarding specialist, to be a transitional specialist. It will only lead to more work. Whether you're engaged with that client or whether you get another project, that specialty is so sought after. And it's not just understanding how to use QuickBooks, it is data manipulation. I mean, you got to help get the data out of the old systems, stage it, move it over. Any questions from the group?
And also sometimes I can say, Jonathan, too, for us, sometimes we do the work, they're thrilled, they get all those reports, we leave, and then 3 or 4 months down the road, they're calling us back because they realize that they should have probably picked us up at that time. So
I know Brandy got she did an onboard that we recommended her for, and that client then engaged her full-time thereafter. So she picked up a big, I think it's like a 12-person law firm. So it was quite a sizable client. 2 questions.
There's a good question on the chat. Do you want to answer that one? There's a good question on the chat about the pro features.
Oh, no. It's we'll be gearing so that there's certain functionality that will make the most of QBOA, but it's not exclusive to QuickBooks Online Advanced at all. It'll work perfectly well. That's a great question. It'll work perfectly well with that. I have 2 questions for the group before we end because it's 2 o'clock. Number 1, we've always not had an August meetup because we felt like people were distracted and vacationing. Just chat me on the group here or just say out loud or thumbs up or thumbs down. Do we want an August meetup? If not, we'll do a next one in September. That's the first question. Thumbs up. Okay, we got 1, 2. All right, done. We'll have one. The second question is, because we had only a half an hour for this, is this a worthy topic that for the next meetup, we take it again and we go a little bit deeper in phase 1 and 2? Do you want more content related specific to onboarding? I see Allison saying yes. Anyone else? Yes. Okay.
Oh, they like us, Lynda.
Yeah. All right.
Big stories to tell.
and Sarah asked for some how-tos. So what would be, we're gonna, assuming Lynda and Sarah will contribute, we'll do this, which I'm sure they will. Not to put any pressure on both of you. We'll do another session on this, and we'll do a little strategy session to be more hands-on, so we can kind of show what data looks like coming out of a program, what it looks like after it's been cleaned. Maybe Lynda can show some of her training videos just as examples, so we can see what some of those look like for the group. Can you guys? I'm just reading Annette's question. Can you guys do a data migration that would transfer Lynda and Sarah's knowledge into my brain?
We've worked hard to have this, so
I don't know what that question. Maybe Lynda
she wants our brains. That's all.
Yeah, I know that's Artesani. So thank you all.
Thank you, Annette.
We're going to follow a similar format. Maybe try to do a little bit more time for the discussion because I felt rushed. But we really appreciate everyone's collaboration, everyone's connection, and your patience with us as we build this program. I wish you all a lovely July. Lynda and Sarah, thank you so much for your collaboration and partnership. It's greatly appreciated. And I'm going to end this session. So have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.